sacral, hip bridges here. And then that. I don't know about you, but I'm very happy to see the sun. I've missed having some warmth.
For the next 5 minutes?
Yes, in and out, in and out. It is nice to hear the rain, but man, I really do miss the sun. Okay. I'm going to start with the hands, the blocks near the back of the mat. Just for me, today I did some gardening earlier in the week, and so I'm a little more fragile in the hips than, especially with the colder weather. So, yeah, I always encourage you when you're doing your practice to, you can always tailor it. Anything where you need to meet the mat, blocks are great for that, strap. Hello. Come on in. We're going to be using mostly our typical practice we've had for the last couple of weeks, warm up, so walking meditation. Today's cool down period. We will be coming down to our belly though, so you'll want to make sure that if you have the hard floor, something might cushion your hip crests there if you have any issues with feeling that. So, Crystal, how are we doing? Should I start?
Yeah, you can start.
Oh, okay, great. Are we online? Are we? Okay, great. I'm sorry. Hello. So, welcome to Gentle Yoga. I'm Jeani, your host for the next hour, and we are in the ACC's community room. And we're practicing a warm-up at the beginning, a walking meditation that helps us warm up our major joints and muscle groups, and then we'll be making our way down to the floor. Today we will be going into a Sphinx pose, so if you can get all the way down to your belly, you might need extra matting if you have a sensitivity, especially if you're on a hard floor. So that being said, we're going to start at the back of the mat. Giving yourself just the time to arrive, we'll start to focus on our breath. And as we move through this, hang on just a moment. You don't have to change the quality of your breath. Just notice how you're breathing. Notice how the mat feels under the feet. Give yourself a gentle bend to your knees if your legs are tight. And every time we return to our home base of mountain, you can find a little more length in the legs and the back. And so we'll go ahead and start cultivating our breath, bringing our left palm to rest on the chest, right palm under the belly button. Focus now on the next couple of breath cycles. Our inhale, slowly through the nose. A brief pause before you exhale through the nose. And when you reach the bottom of the exhale, engage the core. Draw that belly button in towards the spine. As you go through each breath cycle, notice that the length is just a little longer, the breath a little smoother. On the inhale, you may feel your chest hand lifting, top of the inhale, maybe even the collarbones lifting. That brief pause before the exhale, pressing out through the core, all the air in the lungs, in the belly. And then we'll bring the sound of the ocean to the back of the throat, finishing the cultivation of our yogic breath, almost as if you're fogging a mirror, yawning. we'll go ahead and release the hands toward the sides. Let them be nice and relaxed. Focusing at the soles of the feet. We'll now bring our breath and body coordinating that movement. We're going to step into our feet. Feel that energy from the feet going up the body. Inhaling, feel a lift at the crown of the head. As we slowly exhale, feel that energy reverse direction down the body, back to the legs, rooting down just a little more at the soles of the feet, lengthening through your mountain. Fully exhaled there. With the next inhale, start to feel that center of gravity at the soles of the feet move towards the toes. And as you do so, find that tipping point right before you end that breath. So all you have to do is take the next breath and slowly move the center of gravity towards the heels. When you're done with that breath, hopefully, at the back, you'll feel that tipping point. So just find the next couple of breath cycles, exploring the heel to toe alignment, that center of gravity, while the body is primarily upright. And then we'll meet back at the center. Feel it more towards the top of the arches, nearer towards the heels. We'll drop back in. Inhale, feel a little lengthening, a little longer, a little taller mountain. And as we're feeling this string almost pulling us up at the crown of the head, that uplifting feeling as we slowly start to exhale, find that center of gravity just slightly shifting towards the outer right edge of your feet. And then we're going to inhale back up to center, exhale over to the other side, and just feel that rolling at the soles of your feet if you can. It's just that subtle feeling from left to right with a 3-part breath, or you can use a 2-part breath. Inhale from one side, exhale to the other, or just inhale to the center and exhale to either side, whichever feels better to you. And then we'll meet back at center. Coming back into our mountain, go ahead and reset. Feet are underneath the hips. Hopefully you're feeling a little more of the soles of the feet. And we'll once more feel that lengthening upwards towards the crown of the head as we get longer and taller in our mountain. And we're just going to start making small circles in one direction at our ankles. And imagine the small circles radiating outward. Use the next few breaths. See if you can find the edge. You might be doing some odd things with your hands and arms to kind of counterbalance that shift in the center. But once you find the edge, go ahead and tighten in the circles. We'll meet back at center, over the ankles, near to the heels. If you can imagine dropping in and resetting the mountain, lifting up, energizing upwards. We're still going to make small circles at the ankles, but this time in the opposite direction. See if your body can be nice and tall. You're still feeling engaged, upward movement while you're finding that edge. And then we'll go ahead and return to center once that's been established. And coming back in, go ahead and lift a foot, lift a heel, lift a toe. Do what needs to be done to reset your mountain. You can roll from heel to toe, side to side, get that better idea of your foundation, lifting a foot. And then we'll go ahead and start shifting our weight from side to side. Just give yourself that shifting moment, and then we'll start to lift the ball of the foot, the toes, as we begin to shift more and more of the front of our torso towards that side that we're shifting weight. And imagine as you're doing this, you're just basically finding that shifting of weight from side to side, and maybe perhaps the arms are just naturally moving because the shoulders are moving just slightly off from the hips, giving yourself just a little bit of a gentle twist at the hips. Shoulders are moving a little bit, ankles, as you lift up the toes and pivot those toes to the same side. And then we'll go ahead and let that energy peter out. We'll return to our mountain. Bring the feet back to a heel-toe alignment underneath the hips. And then we're going to move on up towards the shoulders. Now at this point, revisit your mountain about a square foot at the base here. We're going to feel our internal rotation of the thighs and the inner arches, the balls of the feet, pressing down just a little more so you can feel this lengthening of the legs. You might even feel a glute activation all the way from the hips down to the heels. And as we're doing that, a tucking of the tailbone under so that gently you might be just lifting up through the chest and bringing the forward hip crests forward just a little bit. Anyhow, let's move on up to the shoulders, palms facing forward, nice and relaxed arms. We're just going to lift the shoulder joints up towards the ceiling, and then exhale, roll them back, and just let them melt down the back. Those flat triangles, kind of at that bottom point. Doing a total of 4 breath cycles here. Inhaling the shoulders up, feeling that lengthening down through the soles of the feet, and then exhaling, releasing those shoulders back and just letting them melt down. Maybe the points at the bottom of the shoulder blades just gently tuck into the mid-back at the bottom of that exhale. Engage your core as well at the bottom of the exhale. And then we're going to do another set, lifting up on the inhale. Let's go ahead and roll them forward this time on this set. We're going to have a total of 4 breath cycles here as well. Just find that forward movement, hopefully releasing at the back of the shoulder blades. And after the very last one, go ahead and reset the mountain if you need to. Just shifting the weight sometimes is all you need. Gentle bounce at the knees, and then resetting a little longer, a little taller in your mountain. We'll be finishing up with our throat and our head. Go ahead and once more, feel that uplifting feeling, rooting down with the legs, feeling as if your torso is activating upwards. And all we need to do at this point is feel that activation at the crown of the head so that we can just exhale. Let the right ear dip towards the right shoulder. There's still about a tennis ball space there. Then on the exhale, turn the gaze. Let your eyes and your gaze turn to wherever they naturally land. We're using a total of 4 breath cycles here as well. Just to simply breathe in and breathe out. And maybe with the exhales, engaging the core at the bottom, letting the eyes just release a little more towards the right. Inhaling, feeling that lifting, that energy. And on the exhale, keeping your rootedness down from the shoulders to the heels. And hopefully a little more release on that left side of the neck. By the time you're done with your very last exhale, you might be able to see your right shoulder, maybe even behind the right shoulder. After that, let's go ahead and bring the eyes, the gaze turns, and the crown of the head completely lifts at the top of the inhale. All you have to do is exhale over to the other side. Inhale, finding length. Exhaling, turning the gaze and finding release on the right side of the neck. Trying to keep that stability from the shoulders down to the heels, as well as each partnering joints of the shoulders. So top of the shoulders in one line, hips in one line, ankles in one line. And remember, as you breathe deeply, your collarbones can lift at the top of the inhale. You might find your rib cage expanding at the very top of the inhale. And then after that last exhale, we're going to bring the eyes, the gaze, the crown of the head completely lifting at the top of the inhale. So all you have to do is float the eyes downward, landing somewhere at about the top of the mat. Notice if in the transitions your foundation moves, try to settle that back in balance. We're still feeling a good, deep, slow yogic breath, helping us energize the body. Inhales are great for scanning the body, seeing if there's any overly activated muscle that can be relaxed slightly with the exhale. See if there's any tension that can be identified, maybe in the neck. There's a space between your chin and your chest as well. With the very last exhale, go ahead and inhale the eyes back towards the midline, past the midline, and if you can see somewhat above you, stop craning the neck, and then use the next 4 breath cycles here to release at the front of the throat, the mouth, maybe a small O opening to a larger O. Maybe that gentle lower jaw from left to right movement. Maybe a deep sigh, rolling those shoulders back and down still. Engaging the core at the bottom of the exhale. And then we can go ahead and bring the eyes back to center with that very last breath. Go ahead and release the stance, especially if you have a tendency to grip the mat. And we'll return to our mountain. We'll start our walking meditation by folding. First, we're going to feel that foundation at the feet once more. See if you have more of an internal rotation so you can lengthen through the legs, have that gentle tuck of the tailbone, lifting up through the shoulders, feeling as if you are just one long column of support. And with the inhale, we're going to reach down with our fingers and start to extend the arms upwards. And at the top of the inhale, you might even reach up with the fingers, pressing down with the balls of the feet. Exhale, start to shift the tailbone back. We're coming down, hinging at the hips with a flat back. And somewhere halfway down, you can always walk the hands down or just let the hands float down. Encourage the chest to sort of fold over. You're still feeling that hip to heel support. And if you need to reestablish that, go ahead and just shift slightly from, the heels to the balls of the feet. But hopefully you'll find a bend to the knees if the backs of the legs are super tight, a deep, deep bend if you need, but you'll still feel that hip to heel support. And we're in our first ragdoll of a fold. We take about 5 breath cycles here. Yeah, I think the mic is not covered, but you can focus in the next few breath cycles with just releasing. See if your arms can be relaxed. If it's easier for you to have your forearms on the thighs, that's fine. Maybe they're on the shins. Maybe they're reaching the floor. Maybe their palms on the floor. Wherever you are, you're just trying to release. Not actively holding the upper body if you can, but only actively holding the support from the hips to the heels. You might just gently nod the head, shake the head, bobble the head. Just see if you can relax the hold on the head. Let nature and gravity help you to release through the back, from the tailbone, down the spine, down the neck. And then we're going to come out of this first lengthy fold with a slow roll up. We want to engage our core. With an inhale, slowly press into the feet, bring that tailbone, the center, back towards the heels. And as you're lifting up one vertebra at a time, the legs are lengthening. You may even walk the hands up to help assist, to bring one vertebra up at a time, head stacking at the top of the neck. Last, and giving yourself a breath or two, letting the blood rush back to the head. And we'll have a second fold. This time, reaching downward. We're inhaling to extend the arms up as we still reach. At the top, lifting upwards. Exhaling, engage the core, hinging at the hips, bending the knees if you need, sticking the tailbone back. We're folding. Floating down or walking the hands down, coming all the way down to our next fold. Maybe you have the blocks near you. Maybe you can use the blocks to help release. We're here for our second fold for only 3 breath cycles, but you can give yourself some extra movement. Maybe it's gentle shifting of the hips side to side. Maybe it's bending one knee, lengthening that leg a little longer, and then alternating with the other knee and lengthening that leg. Doing what you need to do, internal, external rotation at the arches or outer feet to feel more of that center from hips to the arches. And then we'll go ahead and inhale. This time you can roll up, pressing into the feet, one vertebra at a time, or you can come up with a straight back. But we're going to engage the core. And as we come up, lifting up at the top, maybe the hands can reach up above you or at a tangent somewhat. We'll lift up all the way at the top of the inhale, exhaling, hands down, heart center, and start to bring standing weight to the left side of the body. Ensure that you've got the ball of the foot, the heels able to support the body's weight, and then you can lift the right foot. Keep a bend to the knees if you need, but you can lift that right foot. Whoops, if your blocks are in the way, knock them out of the way, and start to bring the weight towards that right standing leg. And you can bring this ball of the foot, the heel or the ball of the foot, and then the toes down, and lifting up on the left leg once that standing weight is there. And bringing that heel or the midfoot, ball of foot, and toes down. And if you feel a little wobbly, press into those palms. You can engage the core if you find that you've lost those, but it's a slow walking meditation, one breath per step. And if you fall out, that's okay. Just come on back in. It's a slow walking meditation just to feel that change in the center of gravity. And as we make our way to the top of the mat, we'll meet in our mountain, feet about hips distance apart, looking down at the fingertips, press into the palms and watch them rise. On the inhale, go ahead, separate them, and exhale into our third fold. And this time, slowly floating down or walking the hands down, but just letting yourself come into another fold. This time, wherever your hands reach, go ahead and press into them so you can lengthen through the legs, lengthen through the back. Maybe it's not a 90-degree angle at the hips. Maybe it's more of a 45, but you're just lengthening best that you can for a half lift. And then we're going to exhale back towards our fold. And if you have your blocks here, you can put your hands on the block, or you can put your hands down at the floor and start to bend a knee and walk one foot, or just put one long leg back and then another, into our high plank. Here, we're going to inhale, shoulders over the wrists, start to bring down the shins, untuck the toes, and then find yourself in your first modified high plank. You can feel hopefully the tops of the ankles and the shins supporting the lower legs and body weight, while the top of the body has your strong shoulders in this plank position. You can always lift up, either with the toes, but don't want to drag your knees back. But if you find you're a little too far forward, you want to make sure you're somewhat above the wrists. We're here for about 5 breath cycles, but if you need to come out at any time, you can do that sooner. We're here for a while. Your core is nice and engaged. The belly button sticking to the ribs, to the spine. We'll go ahead and tuck the toes here, lift up the legs, and press into those long arms. Bring the hips back towards the back of the mat. And your heels might be high and lifted, or they may be slowly working their way down. But what we're looking for in our down dog is somewhat of an upside down V. You can play with the distance between your front hands and the back feet. You can play with the distance between the feet. You want the feet about hips distance apart. Maybe that internal rotation slightly at the ball of the feet. Feel as if you're lifting the tailbone up towards the ceiling. And inhaling, we're going to roll our eyes to the hands. Bend the knees deeply if you need, if your legs are tight. And we're going to start to walk the hands to the back of the mat, to the fold. Fully exhaled here, inhale, half lift. We're going to lengthen through the legs, through the back, best that we can. Hands are contacting wherever they need to. Maybe they have the blocks here. And then we're going to exhale, fold, and then inhale, press into the feet. Bend the knees if you need to get that stability from the hips to the heels. And we're going to come up one slow roll up, one vertebra at a time, or with a straight back. Inhaling, hands above us as we stand, reaching up at the total. Inhale, lifting up, exhaling, hands down, heart center. We'll come in for a second walking meditation, bringing standing weight to the left side of the body, lifting the right foot when that ability is there, and then exhaling the ball of foot, toes, fully bringing the foot down, lifting the left foot when that ability is there, inhaling that up, exhaling that down. And so it's slowly walking, lifting up, exhaling it down, engaging the core if you need. Exhaling down, inhaling up the foot, and then meeting at the top of the mat, looking down at the fingertips, watching it rise on the inhale, separating the palms, and exhaling, engaging the core, sticking the tailbone back, and folding yet again for another fold. And walking the hands down if you need. Fully exhaled here into our fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold, bend the knees if you need. Bring the hands to either side of the feet and walk the feet back. To this time, a nice long high plank. So inhaling, long legs. We're feeling the feet can be either together, maybe a little closer together than our hip stance, but we're feeling that long diagonal from the heels to the crown of the head. And then we're also feeling an energy of our shoulders, just pressing long arms into those hands, into the mat. The balls of the feet supporting the weight from the heels down to the balls of the feet. All right, let's go ahead and inhale, lift up the hips. Exhale, start to push back into your down dog. Notice if your heels come down a little closer. You might need to adjust the distance between the legs and the hands. We're looking for that upside down V. Maybe it's an upside down view, that's okay. Do what you can where you can, but eventually we're lengthening through the torso, imagining that tailbone down to the hands as one long direction of energy downward, and from the tailbone down to the heels or down to the balls of the feet as the other downward direction while we're lifting up at the tailbone, at the apex of our upside down V. Let's go ahead and bend the knees, roll our eyes to the hands, and walk the hands to the back of the mat. To the fold, fully exhaled with bent knees wherever you are, and then inhale, lengthen to your half lift. Exhale, fold, bending the elbows, just drawing the torso closer, and then keep a bend to your knees if you need to, but pressing into your feet, inhaling, coming up, your choice, one vertebra at a time, but engaged core, or with a straight back, and lifting at the top of the inhale, exhaling hands, down heart center, and then finally down to the side. Hopefully you feel a little warmer, a little more lubricated at the major joints, hopefully. And drinking some water is a great time for me right now, maybe for you. And then we will focus on our cooling down practice from the chair. We typically have a balance position. We're going to do a very easy lunge, which you can do from the chair. You want to make sure at least two of the legs are on the a rug or your mat so you don't slide on something hard like the linoleum floor. But you can use your lunge from just the mat standing, or you can use the chair. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down. But coming from the chair, we can just focus on being at the edge. We're going to have one of our sits bones off. And if you're at the mat, just get yourself into your position. You can have your blocks at either point, but just coming into an easy seated position with the chair, you can bring your hip to the edge and just start in this way of just getting into that low lunge, very gentle supported lunge. If you want to use just the blocks, you can bring yourself over the chair or have the blocks at either side in your hands. And we're just stepping the left foot back from the front to the left, to the back in your ability. So, and you're drawing the knee downward. As you bend the front knee, you bring your center of gravity down lower, almost as if you were over the chair. So you can think about transitioning from a chair to your low lunge without the assistance of the chair by just simply moving between these two positions here, eventually getting to that point, maybe a little higher, maybe where you're at this point where you can just focus on bending the right knee, keeping this left hip extended as we lower into our lunge. You can have blocks, you can have the chair, you can just be somewhere in between. Wherever you are, we've been here for about 5 to 6 breath cycles at least. That's a good time to explore your spot and then to breathe. Once you found that pose that you can hold with easy comfort and steadiness. And if you're standing to come out, we're just going to launch from the front, from the back to the front by bending that back leg and bringing our front leg forward as we lift up and come up to the top. left leg to meet the right. And if you're on the chair, we're just going to pivot over to the other side. And you can use your blocks, you can use a chair, but we'll just come over to this side now. And with the left leg being the bending knee, you can come out to the chair edge once more and start off with just the opening of the hip lunge, where you're opening up your right hip this time, keeping up a torso upright, and then transitioning as you need from here to the blocks, to the standing position. Maybe you're over the chair and you're standing, using your blocks, and coming back with the back leg, and then bending that front knee until you can find that comfortable stance. And maybe your blocks are here to help you as you transition. Maybe you're here, you're bending, you're getting to that point where you can come up and keep your lunge. And again, could just be on the chair, transitioning from here, doing what you can, when you can, and just give yourself some holds. You find your special position in about 3 to 5 breath cycles, and then you hold it. Give yourself 3 really good breaths. The inhale, you're engaging your glutes if you're lifted up. If you're just opening up your right hip and you're seated, just focus on letting that right hip release and engage your left glute. But when you're lifted and you're in your lunge, you can just engage the glutes, feel support. And we've been here for a long time. So when you're ready to come out, start to press, launch off of that front back leg so you can straighten the front and come all the way back up to standing, or you can just sit up from the chair. A nice thing about the chair too is as you're coming into a chair sitting position or getting up, you can always stop in that area and just freeze and find out where your chair is. And you're, again, engaging the glutes in wherever your lunge motion is, whether it's assisted by the chair or just on your own in the middle of the mat. So we'll go ahead and make our way down to the floor now. We're going to come onto our belly. See how much time we're moving right along. We're going to come on down to the belly, and you can use the chair to assist you. You can use your blocks. We're going to come on down. There's many ways to come on down. You can use the chair, you can use your blocks, bringing the knees down, and then eventually just one forearm at a time. And getting your face either supported by palms down, the backs of your hands. But if the shoulders are tight, you could just keep your nose kind of smushed down there. Or you could turn the gaze slightly and have your cheek. We want to release through the hips. See if you can make the tops of the feet gently releasing. But if that's too much, you can always just keep the tips of the toes, keep the feet up on the tips of the toes. Just sometimes it's hard for people to have the tops of their ankles flat like that for a while. So just see what you can do. If you are on one side of the cheek, you want to gently press into the belly, into the chest, so you can lift the head slightly and rest the other cheek. Give yourself a few breaths. Just enjoy being supported at the belly. And then we're going to once more press into the chest and the pubic core belly area so we can bring the face orientation back to the chin, gently hovering over the mat. We'll bring our fingers right underneath the shoulders and start to walk them upwards. Start to bring more of the forearms up. And hopefully we don't have our shoulders squishing in towards the spine. We're actually keeping the shoulders upright, almost as if you're pressing them out away from the spine. And that way you can hopefully get more of the forearm, palms downward, and we're looking down. Notice you can roll gently on the hips slightly. Notice if you have your feet pointing straight underneath the hips. And what we can do with the next inhale is just slowly press into the forearms, the palms of the hands, and just start to slowly drag the torso forward. Release through the glutes all the way down to the toes. And then keep that gentle activation of forward pulling as you gently lift up at the shoulders, but our gaze is still looking down at the mat, somewhere in between our thumbs. And breathe. For the next 3 breaths, slow, ocean-like breaths. See if you can relax through the belly. Maybe it's the skin at the top of the ribs there, at the diaphragm, that just lifts with each inhale and gently comes back to the mat with each exhale. Hopefully the shoulders are gently energized so that they're not collapsing inward. And you can always see if your palms are tented. See if you could bring more of the palm to release and support more of your weight of the upper body, along with the forearms, all the way to the tips of the fingers. Take one more deep inhale. Feel the crown of the head lengthening from that point at the belly to the crown of the head. And then exhale. Slowly let the elbows release outward as you bring the chest down. And we'll pivot the backs of the hands to rest under our brow line once more. And just relax. All right, we're going to give ourselves one more inhale. Bring the face and the chin to rest just above the mat once more. Bring the arms down. Palms resting on the mat. Turn the palms to touch the mat. And then we're going to inhale. Press through your legs, lengthening them. And then just gently allow them to be on the mat. You're just lengthening through from the hips all the way down to the toes. Your calves are engaged and your knees may lift off of the mat just slightly. Okay, go ahead and exhale, release that back down. Let the belly be soft, let the glutes be relaxed, let the knees, legs, all the way down to the toes relax. One more inhale, we're going to lengthen through the legs once more, actively point the toes, engage the quads, the glutes, and lengthen through the arms. Engage from the shoulders all the way down to the fingertips. And then we're going to see if you can press into your belly, your pubic bone area, and lift the left toes off the mat. Not the left leg, just the toes. See if you can lift more of the leg as one unit. And then let that left leg relax. Bring everything back down to the mat. One more inhale. We're going to lengthen through the legs, through the arms, engaging at the belly and the chest. We're going to point the right foot. See if we can lift the right toes. See if you can lift the shin, the entire leg from the hip all the way to the toes. And then exhale, let that release back down. Let the chest release and flex the feet. Let the tips of the toes just rest. Let the feet flex, resting on the tips of the toes. One more exhale. And then you can bring the hands out to the front if you'd like. You can pillow the hands underneath the brow bone once more if you'd like. We're going to bend our knees and roll your ankles. One roll circular direction with one foot. Maybe it's a little off from the other. And then alternate that direction. Change the direction of your feet. And maybe one foot was leading with the ankle roll. Let the other foot lead with the ankle roll. And then wiggle your feet, ankles, toes. Just give them a good shake and then let them rest. We're going to come up onto our knees, bringing the hands underneath the shoulders. Go ahead and press, lengthening through the legs, bringing up the body to hands and shin position. So bring the knees just right underneath the hips, maybe a little farther if you need to. See if the toes can touch. We're going to widen our knees and see if we can bring the hips into a child pose foundation. So we might need our block. If you can't bring your hips down to the heels, you might need to rest a little bit on the block. But we're eventually bringing the hips and the heels to meet with the knees just slightly open, a little wider than the hips. Then do what you can. You might need to take 3 to 5 breaths. I don't know if you've been here. Oh, it looks like a lot of you have. But if you find that you have that hips to heel distance still to meet, keep the block there. And then we're going to rest. You can bring the hands out to the front. And then the next thing to think about is to focus on bringing the chest down towards the thighs. So wherever you are, you might need 2 blocks. You might need several. You might not be able to bend the chest forward. But whatever you're doing, finding that release at the hips. You've got the toes perhaps touching. The toes, the tops of the ankles are on the mat, hopefully. You can always come out of this if this is uncomfortable for you. But if you're able to fold over, we're hoping that in a child's pose, your knees are wider, or just at least hips distance or wider. And then you can fold the torso in between that area of the knees. And eventually, we're holding this pose for 5 to 10 breath cycles after you've found your position of child's pose, where you can keep it with a comfortable steadiness. If you feel like you've gone too deeply, come back up and out. If you need to make adjustments, that's entirely up to you. But as we're focusing towards the last few breath cycles, see if you can relax through the hips, through the knees. See if you can engage the yogic breath. Those deep inhales, the expansion of the rib cage. That pause before. Just have that slow release of the exhale. And at the bottom of the exhale, maybe you might find something just opens up for you. All right. Now, as you're reaching your last inhale and exhale, your last breath cycle, we're going to come out of our child's pose by bringing the hands close to our knees and extending through the arms so we can help to lift the torso. Bring the torso back to an upright position. And then we'll remove any props that we might have had supporting our chest. We're going to lean back just slightly so we can lift the knees, lift the shins together, and walk upwards if you need to, readjust. And we're coming into our hero pose. In here, we're just going to be resting our sits bones on the heels. We want to feel as if we have that internal rotation of the thighs. And once we have that base there, you should gently be pressing the tops of the ankles down onto the floor, that gentle internal rotation, bringing up the torso, and hopefully sitting upright and gently releasing through the shoulders and feeling the hips and the heels connected, or at least a support between the two, so that you can lift up the torso and have that spine just sinking right into the pelvic bowl there, a 90-degree angle. If you need to pitch the torso forward, that's fine, but we're focusing on sitting upwards with a gentle tuck of the chin. This is a great time. We're going to do just a few of our shoulder stretches. If you can reach your strap. If you'd like that to assist you, here's where we're just holding a gentle engagement of our core. The perineum is lifted, our internal engagement of the thighs. So we have just a gentle engagement of the foundation. We can relax the shoulders. We can bring a strap over our shoulder, and we can focus on bringing arms up, one arm up, and bringing it down. We can bring the other one back behind us. If we have that strap, we can just focus on lifting up through the sternum, opening up through the elbows, and breathing. 3 breaths here. Inhaling, exhaling. And if you find that you can walk the hands closer together on the strap, eventually you might be able to clasp fingers, but you're only working as you can, opening up elbows, up and down, close to the body, close to the head. And then we'll release, bringing down the right arm first, letting the left arm release, both at the side, nice and relaxed. Just give yourself a gentle movement of the shoulders, maybe rolling them forward, side to side, alternately, and then we'll move to the other side. And if you need to change out of your hero pose at all, you're more than welcome to. Just sit with your hips off to the side. That's fine too. One more deep inhale, lifting up the arms, bringing the other arm up, letting that rest downward, letting the right arm, and finding with the next few breath cycles, elbows moving up near the head for the left above arm, and the right one just relaxing. And if you find that something is just not speaking to you, come on out. Sometimes we go in with a little more intensity than we realize. And one side is almost always a little tighter, just a little different than the other. So you can always make your adjustments in this transitional period. And once you find that sweet spot, breathe. 3 good deep breath cycles, the ocean breath. Let it guide you for the inhale of energizing the body, scanning the body. And with the exhales, letting that energy take out any tension, any achiness. And then we'll go ahead and release. Let the top arm unfold, release back, let the right arm release, let both shoulders just simply be. You can do any movement like rolling, gentle rolling, to counteract any still activated muscles. And then we're going to bring our hands, if you haven't already, we're going to shift to a deer. And all you have to do is lift up the hips. You can use your hands to help assist, and just let your hips drop to one side. And then we'll start to separate the knees. Bring the bottom foot up. And we're bringing this left knee back slightly, just finding some space here. You might make some adjustments. You may have a top hip that's very lifted. Eventually, if you have nice open hips, you can bring the left hip down and you can be in an upright seated position. But until then, you might just have one hip lifted, keeping that front, that top shin parallel, and the back leg, having the toes pointed away from the body. Don't have your ankle rolled in with the foot flexed. That might torque the knee that's going in the back. And what we'll do here is move any furniture out of the way. We're nice and long with the inhale, and as we're gently just exhaling, we're going to turn the torso until we stop. And once we do that, we might be able to lower down onto the right arm if you're twisted to the right in your deer. And eventually, you might need something to support the ribs. You might just eventually bring the left arm and the entire torso to rest on that side of the floor. Or you just might have those blocks. See what works for you. You're wanting release in that top left hip. The right hip is very externally rotated, but also flexed. So we're not having much of an opening with that bottom hip, but the top hip should have a fantastic stretch from that hip crest, really from the quad to the hip crest, all the way even to the armpit and through the arm if you lengthen that side of the arm. Give yourself any minute adjustments. You might find you had tightness someplace you didn't even realize. And we stay on that side once we found our sweet spot for about 5 breath cycles once we've gotten here. With the inhale, even in this somewhat twisted fashion, let it breathe, let it bring energy to the body. With each exhale, even as small as it can be in this twisted fashion, you might have something just gently release. If you look under your armpit, you might find that your knees are sort of in this cat chasing tail position of a spinal twist. But looking down, you should have see something of your left sole of the foot and a nice bend to the right thigh along the floor. To come out, what we can do is start to prop up the torso, lengthening through the arms to lift up the torso. And we're just going to turn the torso as one unit, back, and bring that left leg out just slightly as we roll onto the sacrum, the sits bones, that back butt portion that's nice and flat with the bones, and we're just going to roll to the other side and make any adjustments as you can. That left leg that was below you now will be at the top, and the top leg will now be the one to go to the back. And as you bring one knee down and the top leg shin is parallel, then you can focus on having the back foot toes pointed away from that knee and bringing more, hopefully, of that right sit bone to be onto the floor when it's available to you. But you might just focus on keeping that openness between the knees as you start to cultivate the openness at the hips. But once we're here, you can think about that torso being nice and long and gently turning until we stop turning. And then you can bring down one elbow at a time. Maybe you have a blanket conveniently nearby. Maybe it's your block. But you can focus on bringing the torso downward on this side now. And again, like in our child's pose, you might have a lot of blocks, props supporting the torso as it makes its way down. Or you might just eventually surrender the chest to the floor. But as we're here now, you can focus on now the top hip, the right hip, hopefully, having that good stretch and modifying whatever stretch you're experiencing now. You can gently extend through the right side of the body into that twist, lengthening through the right hand, right palm on the floor. Or maybe you're just there, enjoying your spot and breathing the ocean breaths. 5 good ocean breaths. These are both the inhales, the pause, the exhale, and the pause again before you start the next breath cycle. And to get out of deer on this side, we'll focus again on lengthening through our arms, walking the hands close under the shoulders, lengthening through the torso, lifting the torso as we gently return to center, turning. The torso is one unit. And just rolling on the back of the sacrum, on that back portion of your hips, maybe on the gluteal parts, and we'll come into Shavasana now, as it's that time. So making your way onto your back in your favorite fashion. Perhaps having a rolled blanket underneath the small of your back, maybe a nice flat folded blanket to cover shoulders, bony sacrum, whatever works for you. And you can always bring support to beneath your knees with either a block or just letting your knees knock inward if you don't have blocks and you feel that benefit of lifting the knees. Sometimes it relieves the pressure at the lower back. But if you can lay down and lengthen through the legs, sometimes you just need to give yourself a little bit of time. You might find the hips are really tented if they're tight. You may find the knees are tented and the calf is lifted. You might need to inhale, lengthen through that left leg, pressing out through the heel, flexing the left foot, and then releasing that leg. And then hopefully the toes and the knees are somewhat in that direction up towards the ceiling. And you might have to do the same with the other leg to get that to relax. But just give yourself some time. Once you find yourself relaxed on the back, you might need a blanket on you. You might orient the palms to face up. If your shoulders prefer to have them face down, you can have that face down. But as we enter our last stage, just let the body release and respond to today's practice. And we'll awaken with the 3 bells. bringing the mind back to the body. Take note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to your breath. Notice the air as it enters the nose, perhaps a little warmer as it exits the nose. And to return to the body vessel once more, I invite you to wiggle your fingers, toes. You can rock the body. You can roll over to your favorite side in a fetal position. You can help yourself up. We'll meet in an upright seated position of your choice. Be comfortable on your sits bones. Want to be nice and upright with our spine. We'll end our class with our alternate nostril breathing, just to feel a little more balanced. So bring the left hand to rest in a chin mudra. It's just the index finger and the thumb. Let that hand be supported by the left thigh. Right hand is in a Vishnu mudra, which is just the first two fingers on the mount of the thumb. We close our right nostril with the right thumb, left nostril with the ring finger tip. But if that's too awkward, you can always bring the two fingers to rest on the brow line and close with the knuckle right ring finger and the thumb like so. So, taking a nice deep inhale, we'll go ahead and close the right nostril with the right thumb. Exhale through the left. Fully exhale, draw the belly button in towards the spine, lift the perineum, fully exhaled. Inhale. Let the chest expand, close the left nostril, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Last round. Exhale. Close. Inhale. Close. Exhale through the right. Release the right hand. Release the left mudras. Let the breath return to its natural state. And bring your hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining us here at the ACC Community Room. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.